which you have no power here moment was the best you've ever seen. It was hard for me to grow up with a mother who had both narcissism and bipolar disorder. I remember her being hooked on drugs a long time ago. She would do anything to get them, and I mean anything. Her highs often caused her to have temper tantrums when I was a kid. She would beat me up, break me down by pointing out everything she knew I was scared of or self-conscious about, and try to ruin my relationship with my dad and brothers. She would be awake for days at a time and then pass out while standing up with her eyes closed and her back arched. When she woke up, she would be moved around and destroy everything in the house. When I left, the house was clean, but when I came back, it looked like a mad tornado had gone through it with broken glass, animal waste, dirty clothes, roaches, empty pill bottles, pill residue ground up, and other random things all over the place. When she was having a really bad night, she would imagine, and you could often find pools of her blood on the ground from running through glass. I remember being up for days because she and my dad would scream at each other nonstop, trying to get me to let one of them into my room at 4 a.m. so I could watch. She used me and sometimes left me in the middle of nowhere when she went to meet up with her sugar daddies. During this time, she was still with my dad, and she never said sorry when she was thinking straight. She would blame everyone and everything but herself. She thought she could do no wrong. She always had trouble with money because she couldn't work when she was like that. She did sell some of her pills, but the money she got from that was used to buy more drugs in the end. Because of this, we were often homeless, went years without water or electricity, and almost never had food. I went to bed almost every night having only eaten the school lunch that day. I didn't always eat on the weekends. The rest of my family didn't know what was going on. My aunt called me in the summer when I was 16. We hadn't talked much since I was a lot younger. She asked me if I would like to spend a few weeks with them in Texas this summer. I was over the moon when I said yes, of course. I didn't ask my parents because I didn't think they would have noticed I was gone, so they didn't know. My aunt came all the way from Iowa to spend the afternoon with us. They didn't come out of their room because they didn't seem smart enough to notice that she was there out of the blue. Our house was pretty clean when she got here. When we got back, the storm was over. We had left for a while to get food. For her, the worst thing wasn't that our house had suddenly gone to hell. It was that I didn't even do anything about it. She told me this on the way to Texas. I didn't say a word as I carefully walked around the mess and started packing my things. She was very upset about this. And in the end, she asked me if I felt safe where I lived. It was all I had ever known, so I said yes. Telling me that what she saw scared her, she asked me to move in with her in Texas. I laughed it off because I thought she was kidding. But I knew I had to do it after a few days down there. It really shocked me when they showed me love, kindness, and care that I had never known existed before. So we made up our minds that I would move in with my parents after I turned 18. In the end, this meant sitting across from my parents and their lawyer in court. When the judge asked me why I wanted to leave, I told him what I had already said. I told him that I wanted to live in peace for once and that I had felt love and kindness for the first time in my life. They were told by their lawyer, "It looks like you don't respect your parents. Is it because of how much money they have? That makes it look like you're tied to the benefits of living with a family that makes good money and not because you want to leave because they're bad parents." As they have done many times before, my parents jumped in and hooted and screamed at me to try to break me down. Before it was my turn, I didn't say anything. I let them speak first. As they had done many times before, they tried to get me to break down, but I wouldn't let them. The judge finally asked me to talk. He stared at my mother, my father, and their lawyer across from me with all the anger I could muster. I told him, if you're asking me if I don't respect my parents, then you are right. However, it's not accurate to say that it's only for money reasons. They have lost my respect because they have been rude to me. Just as I was about to finish, my mother started to wriggle and scream at me from across the table, just like she always did. He's telling a little white lie. Up until the judge slammed his gavel down and the room went silent. My mother stared at him in shock. Even though I knew tears were coming, I looked at her and told her, for once in your life, for once in my life, act like an adult. No longer can you stop me by yelling at me. You have nothing left to use against me. There's nothing you can do. The judge sent his cop to move towards my mother while I spoke. The officer told her quite firmly to get up from her chair and let her out of the room, but her face remained frozen with shock. The judge took one broad look at me, my aunt, my dad, and his lawyer, and then he spoke. "I'm sorry this has been going on for so long, young man. You and everyone else don't need to say anything else. You deserve to live a normal life like any other kid, and it's clear to me now that your parents aren't able to give you that. You will go back to Texas with your aunt, and our social workers will keep in touch with you to see how things are going. Good luck, young man. Make the most of this second chance." Breaking up, I could only hear the ringing in my ears, even though the only sound in the room was the bang of his gavel. As soon as my dad and his lawyer were let out of the room, the tears I had been holding back broke out like a flood. 7 years have passed since that day, and I'm glad to say that I've grown up and become a happy adult. I have a great job, great friends, and a wonderful lady. Since we got back to Texas, I've been going to therapy, and I no longer have trouble sleeping or bad anxiety and sadness attacks like I used to. Things are fine.